Hi, this is Sheriff Lamb, Pinal County Sheriff, and we're back here where we talk about all things Pinal County and law enforcement in Pinal County and anything that has to do with Pinal County. Today we're in the Pinal County Jail, and I've got some guests here. First of all, I'm going to introduce my co-host. This is Chief Matt Hedrick. He's here with us today. And then we've got two. So when I first came into office, I tried to look at all the different ways we could help people, and especially in the jail. And one of the things I quickly found was a veterans program called HUMV, the Housing Unit for Military Veterans. And so we started that program back in, I think, October of last year. And it's been a great program. And we're fortunate enough today to have two of our veterans from the program with us. You want to give them your name?
My name is Chris.
We got Chris.
And David.
And Chris is a veteran of the Army, and David a veteran of the Navy, right?
That's right. That's right.
So thank you guys for your service. And this is a special week in this country where we honor our veterans, and which is why we wanted to have you guys here today. So today we're going to be talking a little about these two gentlemen, their service in the military, being veterans, and we're going to talk about the HUMV program. So Chris, let's start with you. Tell us where you're from, and what you did in the Army. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Went to the Army when I was 17. So, when I was in there, I was working on engines. I'm 91 Bravo. I kind of like diesel engines, so it's not my fault. I'm a car guy.
So now, during your time in the Army, did you get deployed?
No, sir, I didn't. Most of the veterans in here did, but I didn't. I wish I did. There was me and another guy who didn't get deployed. He was a colonel's driver, though. I didn't have that luxury.
Yeah, but most of the colonels aren't driving around in diesels, are they?
No.
No, sir. Although all the Humvees are diesels.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The Humvees, the troop transports and stuff like that. So I basically liked working on engines. I'm a grease monkey, as they call it. So I'm sorry.
Hey, that's good. So when you left the military, did you get into the same line of work?
No, sir. I went to work in Dollar General warehouse. My brother got me a job there because he was like, his boss liked hiring veterans, and most of the people that I worked with were veterans. Some of them Army, Navy, Marines. So I kind of liked doing that. More often than not, it was kind of hard because most people have an attitude and trying to work with them, and I'm like, okay, I don't get them. I don't get. What am I supposed to do? They're like, hey, talking to the headphone, you say the number, they'll tell you what number to pick of the product. So we basically supplied the whole East Coast Dollar Generals, like 300 and something thousand products every night.
So how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, so you're still young.
Yes, sir.
And how long were you in the Army?
3 years, 31 weeks, but nobody's really counting.
You had it down almost to the hour, huh?
Almost. Just couldn't really put my finger on it much. Every time I tried to, it looked like the time would get pushed back. So I was like, hey, it is.
What inspired you to go in the military?
My older brother, he's 10 years older than me. My mom, my uncle. My great-granddad and my granddad were both in the Army, and like one was World War II and one was World War I. So I had both of their flags. And my mom, she went into the military, but I don't know what happened there, but something happened, and my uncle was a Marine. So seeing all them go in, and then when my older brother left me when I was a kid, I was kind of mad at him. I'm like, why do you have to leave? And when he came back, I was happy because he was like, hey, look, baby boy, look at this, and I was like, hey, okay, that's a medal right there. And he's like, yeah, this is my marksman. This is what the unit I was in right here, and this is how it kind of inspired me more than anything. And then seeing him as I go to the base with him when he would go do his training and stuff, seeing everybody around and everybody's like, hey, we're all friends and we're all cool. So I kind of like that. I was a troubled youth, as you would say. So I kind of liked fighting a lot, and I would get in trouble. And talking to one of his sergeants, he was like, yeah, I can use you. So
That's great.
So I see that a lot of kids from the South area, because there's a lot of military bases around there. You get a lot more people getting into the military. They're used to seeing, or they have family that's been in the military.
Yes.
You don't see it as much out here in the West Coast. You don't run into as many. What do we have? A military base in Fort Huachuca, and then we've got one out in Yuma, and
We have Luke.
we got an Air Force base. So It's that's what I've seen is you get a lot more folks from the South and the East joining the military, which is great. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's David, and I was in the U.S. Navy. I'm a Persian Gulf War vet. I got a National Service Defense Medal for the Gulf War. Let's see, I was a damage controlman, which is a shipboard firefighter, and then I specialized in chemical, biological, and radiological warfare.
So you got exposed to the gas when you were in there, right?
That was something that we did that gas chamber many times.
That's
Oh
awful.
my gosh.
It was actually in my school. They would open up the back door of the classroom and say, gas, 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 and throw in a canister.
So now when you got into when you were a kid, did you know you wanted to be in the military?
Actually, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter, which is, I think, why I chose damage controlman for the Navy, because they control all the damage that occurs to the ship to keep it battle ready. And so that's what that was my specific job. And so I was able to live out that dream as a firefighter in the Navy. And then because at the time we were in the Gulf War, and they needed people to volunteer for the Special Warfare Department, then part of my schooling was chemical, biological, and radiological warfare.
Well, thank you for your service too. I mean, one of
It's
the
good to be home.
I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but the one regret I do have was not serving in the military. And I always wanted to serve in the military as a kid. I got home from serving a mission for my church in '93, and there was nothing going on. I had talked to some guys that were serving. They said, we don't really do much, do some paperwork now that we're not in war. And I just started a family and never did it, but it's the one regret I do have.
Yes.
So
I have the same regret. When you guys when you first joined the military, how did you guys feel about yourself? Like, we're talking like as you got off the bus at boot camp, and then when your parents came or your family came to watch you graduate. Tell me about like your transition.
I joined when I was 17. So I dropped out of high school and I was ready to join the military. I was in Army ROTC all through high school. And so I knew I wanted to go into the military, and I knew that I wanted to go into the Navy because I had some friends that, no offense, Chris, but they joined the Army and they got stuck at like Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, their entire enlistment. And I wanted to see the world, so I knew that the Navy was one surefire way to put me on a boat to someplace else. And I got to travel. So I knew I wanted to join. I got into the Navy, and when I stepped off that bus in boot camp, I was kind of prepared for the drill and ceremony portion of it because of the ROTC. And then I would say when my parents came, I was super proud. I was ready to go out and be battle ready and join the fleet.
Was that the first time in your adult life that you felt really proud of accomplishing something that mattered?
Right. Yeah, definitely that. And then, just being, I'm a plank owner on board the USS Gonzales. So I helped build that ship at the Bath Iron Works. And we were the first crew to take over possession of it from the civilian contractors and do all the sea trials. So from the day that ship was set, the keel was set and it was pushed into the water, that I was part of it.
That's so cool.
that's cool.
Chris?
Did you go to Fort Benning?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about when I first got the basic training?
Well,
Tell us about it.
Just tell us about like when you had your start date and they told you needed to be here at this date, this time, and then when you saw your parents and everybody at your graduation.
Oh man, when I first got off the bus, I hit Fort Jackson. When I first got off the bus, I was looking like, hey, it's not going to be that bad. And then because they were like, yeah, go to the defect, eat all you want. You can have all that, all the cake, cookies, and everything. And then that day came when they told us we had to dress up and get on the bus. And the drill sergeants came out, and it all changed because I was like, ooh. My one drill sergeant Darvila, he was no joke. He was like 6'7", a good 250, and I'm looking at him like I'm 6'2" and like a $130, and he just snatched me up and threw me on the bus, and I'm like, okay, and sat down, got off. I was not ready for the Shark Tank. They swarmed as soon as we got off the bus, they swarmed everybody, and I'm not gonna lie, I had one battle buddy. He kind of dropped his bag, and they swarmed him so bad. I was scared. I thought they were going. I couldn't see him for a while. All I seen was the hats and the fingers, and I didn't know what to do. So
I
I just
love that you
kept.
call it the Shark Tank because I think that anybody listening can get a visual of all these sharks just attacking this one little piece of meat.
And it was fun though because I was so used to my brother always being like, "Come on, baby boy, we about to do push-ups." Okay, come on, baby boy, we about to go to the park and do some pull-ups. Okay, we're about to run around because East Lake Park is like 3 miles around. So he's like, "We're about to run around like 4 times. You have to catch me." And I'm a kid, so I can't catch my older brother that much. He take off running, and I'm like maybe 100 yards behind him, and he's still turning around and running backwards. But when I did graduate basic, I was happy because it was my grandma, my wife, and my son there, and my auntie. And I was like, the first thing I did when I looked up into the stands and when I seen them, I seen my wife first. So I, my heart just jumped out my chest, and I'm sitting here like, yes. She still has the video of me at basic and everything. So I'm sitting here like, yes, 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 I did it. Grandma, I did it. And my grandma was sick, and she wasn't supposed to leave from Alabama, but she did anyway. She was like, I had to see you graduate. And I was like,
That's cool.
It's really cool.
Well, and you got a history in your family of military, so I mean, anytime you accomplish something, but going through basic training, what do they say? How many percent? It's 4% of the population serves in the military. I think it might even be less than that.
and they
So
said we were the top 1%.
yeah, and it sets you guys apart. You should be proud of that time.
And the reason why I ask those questions is my goal is to return everybody who enters this specific pod, the HUMV unit, to that version of yourself. I want you guys to be proud of yourselves. I want you to feel good about yourself because you are Sheriff Lamb and I's neighbor. Truly, you're our neighbor. You can move in right next door to us. There's no reason why you couldn't. And I want to love my neighbor. I want to honor my neighbor. But how proud I am to have military people who call me a friend, who I associate with. And so I thank you for making the attempt to become the best version of yourself.
The sheriff, Chief Hedrick, brings up a good point. We're here to talk a little bit about the HUMV program today. So that's the housing unit for military veterans. So for anybody listening, obviously we're in the jail, and both of you are in here, not on your own free will right now.
Turns out, no.
No, not exactly.
And, you know, we don't need to get into that if you don't want to get into that. I really want to focus more on what the HUMV program is for those people. Because I go out and I talk a lot about it in the community, and people love it. But nobody ever gets to hear from the guys that are actually in the program. So what did you think when you first got in here and heard about the program? Did they tell you right when you were booked in?
They didn't. When I heard about it when I was downstairs in the H unit, and people were like, yeah, some people might talk good about it. They're like, yeah, it's for military veterans, and some people are like, oh no, it's not. They're doing this, and that. But when I got up here, especially when David came up here and he was like, yeah, you're gonna like it because we clean 7 o'clock in the morning. We get everything straightened out. We make sure we do our PT in the morning and everything. And then when I came up here, when he came back downstairs and got me and brought me up here, I was like, man, it's real quiet up here. And this is the first person I met right here, man, sitting next to me. This is the first guy I met. So when we started talking, he was like, yeah. So asked me what unit I came from. I told him. He was like, hey, I was down there. Did you meet this person, this person, this person? I'm like, yeah. I was like, hold on, I think I know you, but I don't really. And we kind of hit it off, and he was explaining to me like, hey, we have the book card, we have the ping pong table, we're sitting right as soon as I came up here, they were watching a movie in there, and it's like, oh, I'm looking at it like, hey, this is a new experience. How many people are in here? And I only seen like 7, and I was like, we got all this space, and that's why it's so quiet.
Well, I think that everyone can, you said it about what brought us in here. I think that everyone, in a more general sense, is here for pretty much the same reasons. We all have issues with combat-related post-traumatic stress disorder, those of us that were deployed. Those of us that weren't deployed, there's still some PTSD that occurs even stateside with the anxiety of possibly being deployed,
or the loss of guys that you did serve with.
Right. Because I tell a lot of people I'm not a hero, but I served with a lot of them. I served with many guys that were, and are still today. And I think that we are dealing with an issue of not being able to coming out of the military in a state of hypervigilance, where some of us are still, part of us are still at war.
Yes.
We deal with a lot of survivor's grief. We deal with a lot of rage issues. When our job is to visit violence on others and we're not violent by nature, there's damage that's done. There's damage to our core, moral damage to us. Because we're not that type of person, and yet we have to become that type of person and take on some of the characteristics of those people that we fight in order to survive. And when we come back, the military spends millions of dollars to train us, but they don't necessarily spend that much to teach us how to become normal in a group setting or a social setting when there's, to reduce that hypervigilant state. And so we self-medicate. I'm not afraid to admit it. I know what I am and I own it. I self-medicated with alcohol. I'm your run-of-the-mill alcoholic because of what happened.
And did the alcohol lead to whatever crime that you did?
The alcoholism and it made I made some poor judgments. Sure it did. That and just not being able to deal with my issues relationally with other individuals. You tend to fight more. You tend to act out in aggressive ways more. And is that our fault? Not necessarily. Do we need counseling and help and therapy for it? Sure we do. Is incarceration the answer? Probably not. Is treatment? Probably so.
That's the one thing.
And this unit, when I came in 2018, and this unit was offered, it changed my perspective on things. I realized that first off, I didn't know what programs, or I was ashamed to enroll in the VA. I've never gotten VA benefits, and I'm working with someone who comes in here and got me on that road and on that pathway to get my VA benefits. I was ashamed, maybe guys like me that are combat trained, but we're battle broken. And,
Wow.
And we deal with that in police work too, where we're trained to do something, but then it's also sometimes viewed as maybe a weakness to go and ask for help.
Exactly.
And we're having to break through some barriers on law enforcement levels, barriers that you guys have been working on trying to break through for a long time. And you said it perfect. A lot of veterans are self-medicating. One of the things that we tried to achieve here was bring you into a quiet atmosphere, because a lot of guys go from jail, which is very noisy, constant vigilance. You have to look over your shoulder, and then next thing you know, bam, you're back out on the road, and you're in a room all by yourself, and your mind goes to work on you. And we're trying to transition, and we've got all these programs. Do you feel like the programs in the Humvee, you kind of touched on it, but do you feel like they've been beneficial to you?
Oh, definitely. We have mentors who come in here that do work through the Veterans Court program. Bill and Mike, they come in here and they talk to us, and they try to help us understand like what's really going on, because they are Vietnam War veterans, so they can understand. And like some of the other people we have come in here, like we have 2 ladies come in here on Wednesday, and they come in here to play cards with us, and they kind of lighten up the situation, because some days we all have like he said, we have our different issues and we have our different mindsets and stuff, and some of us don't really know how to express it. We kind of like that. We like the fact that we have people that can take time out of their day to come in here and say, hey, how are y'all doing? How are y'all feeling today? Okay, well, explain this to us. How did this part make you feel? Or they'll sit there and be like, well, we have different methods that you can try to at least relieve some of that stress that you have on your mind. It's not the fact that nobody else can forgive us, or not the fact that God can forgive us. It's the fact that some of us can't forgive ourselves. It's like you said,
that's a good point.
The hypervigilance, it's bad for me to go into a mall or in a Walmart without feeling like people are looking at me and always out to get me, and it's bad because I have my kids and my wife with me, and it doesn't make it any better because the first thing I'm thinking about is, okay, if something does happen, where's the first exit that I can get my family out of here first? And everything else, I won't care about myself as long as I get my family out of there.
And you can't enjoy the moment of life. You can't be in that moment. It makes it hard to be in that moment.
Yeah, it makes it real difficult because we have so much pent up. Oh, I can't even say it's pent up hostility. It's just the fact that they, like you said, they pay millions of dollars to train us, and not their first thing that they say is, hey, maybe take this medicine. It might help. We don't know, but if it doesn't, we're going to give you this one right here. And
I think that the programs that you've started in this, in this facility, from, like Chris said, the ladies that come in and help us really with the people that have social anxiety disorder from their PTSD. They come in and they play cards with us. Meeting new people is hard for us. Learning new things and new games. We tend to be creatures of habit, creatures of our training, because that's what we fall back on. You train until it becomes habit, until it's a reflex response. So getting us out like that. I know that in any AA or NA program, in any program that is a substance abuse related program, they talk about the 12 steps, and the third step is your higher power. I think that the fact that you have a lot of ministry based, from Point Man Ministries, and they're involved in other aspects of your program with the court systems, Mike Sharp and Bill Wargo are. I think that that's great. Sinners to Saints program at Barry Wolfsburg.
I like those guys, yeah.
Sinners to Saints and Barry Wolfsburg is a great guy. He comes in here on Tuesdays. He just left here before you guys arrived today. And so I think that bringing us in a close relationship with our higher power, and that morality has a lot to do with it, just for me, myself. And then the other program, we have a meditation specialist comes in, does yoga with us. Teaches us how to.
Sorry, that you can thank her for the yoga.
Yeah,
she fought for that yoga for you guys,
And I fought it like crazy.
and she swore it would be good, and we've heard nothing but good things.
Well, when he comes in here, he actually makes it better. Wake up in the morning, and the first thing we can do, we sit there and do our salutes our sun salutations. That's what he calls it. And then we'll probably do a couple more poses, and then. Like sometimes he'll ask us, do we want to sit down and meditate, or do we want to go into the straight program? And sometimes we'll be like, we'll meditate and then go into the program. And it's actually better because it calms us down for the rest of our day, and then we go into a smooth sailing day.
Good job to be that.
I tell you, another program that's just recently been started by the chaplain here at the jail is the
Night to the 21st.
Oh, nice. How do you like that?
So that is probably one of the most profound and all-inclusive programs
really good.
that the county has come in and offered. And I wish he had more time so we could do more of it at one time, so it didn't take the
Everybody
full
says
12
that.
weeks. Because some people are here for a shorter amount of time than 12 weeks, and that's a great program. I mean, it really teaches how to use that battlefield, especially for us at night. We're all warriors to begin with, and it teaches warriors how to come off the battlefield as warriors and go back to being a man in a family setting. How to be a man.
What I love about that is it takes those rules of engagement that you were trained in the military, and it transfers that hyper-aggressive, you were predators. You guys went out and sought out the enemy and the threat, and you stopped them. Transitions into the mindset of, I'm a warrior for God, or I'm a warrior for my higher power,
That's right.
and I must love my enemies. I must love everybody. I think that is truly.
Right. Pray for those who persecute you. Repay no
Hey,
evil with
I
evil.
live it every day, man.
Yeah.
I just downloaded a quote. We're almost out of time, but I downloaded a quote yesterday, and it says, "Honestly, I don't have time to hate people who hate me because I'm too busy loving people who love me." And that's truly it. I don't have time to hate the people who hate me because I'm too busy trying to love the people that love me. So 30 milliseconds. Let's give each one of you anything that we can do different in the program to make this better.
There's disconnects, and we've talked about them.
And I'm going to work on
outside
those.
of this, there's disconnects in everything that you try to do. Whenever you want to make change, there's going to be resistance in some areas to that change. People aren't going to see everything your way. What it is the ability, and I think that you have an impressive ability as far as I'm concerned. I've seen you on other platforms outside of here, and we've spoke, and I think you have a very strong and unique capability to work with those people to get them to see things from your point of view.
Appreciate that.
And, I just think that when I get out, I know I want to be one of the champions of this program and come back and
We'd love to have you guys.
be a part of this in a different role, of course. And I think that, Mahatma Gandhi said it best, you have to be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, that's right. Excellent.
Well, he hit on every point. That's all. He hit on every point. The only thing, it's like, I do want to be a champion coming out of the program, but I also like you said, I want to come back and help people that's been in this predicament and in this situation, to be like, hey, I've actually sat where you're sitting at. This is my room right here, and that was my bunk over there. So, look, this is what we can do to help you, and this is what was done to help me. So, just to help other people that come into the same situation, so they won't make the same mistakes again.
Anything you guys want to say to all the veterans out there?
That if you're currently out there and you're not getting the help that you need, if you're feeling ashamed of reaching out to get that help, if you don't know where to get that help from, if you are in a pit of despair, depression, or addiction, and you're in that situation that Chris and I were in, and many of these vets that are in here were in right before we were given the help this way, there's avenues other than this HUMV program to get that help, and just don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid, and know that you're only going to make your family's life better, your life better, and the lives of those people that you interact with every day better by getting that help.
Excellent advice. And I've always said, I'll take all the veterans that come into my jail, but I don't want any veterans in my jail. And it's not that I want to help veterans from getting to this point. So, any last words of advice?
We have to keep fighting. Basically, keep fighting. Don't let it get you down. Don't feel like there's nobody that's going to help you. We're all here, so you have people that's really going to support you.
Good advice. And I want to thank both of you.
Thank you
for being veterans, for serving this country. Happy veterans to all those veterans out there. I know we've got several other veterans in here that weren't part of the show today, but we appreciate all the service that you guys have done. And I know everybody listening out there appreciates it too. So you guys this week, hopefully you can, even in here, enjoy the fact that there is a lot of people across this country celebrating your service to this country. So any last words, Chief?
We love our veterans, but the highest form of love is devotion. So we're devoted to our veterans. We're devoted to making you better.
Well, we went way over, but I think it was a good show, and I appreciate you guys being on. So God bless everybody, and have a great week.
All right.
Happy Veterans Day.